Britt, welcome to the Your Sorority Journey podcast. I am so excited to have you on for our Recruitment Takeover 2024 series. Just getting to know you over the last couple months. I think this is like the perfect conversation that we haven't really had with recruiters in recruitment takeovers in the past around self-care and wellness in recruitment, like how necessary, but how overlooked. So thanks for joining us.
Oh my gosh, Cassie, thank you for having me. I'm honored. I'm your go-to girl for self-care, all things mental health and wellness. For those that don't know me, I am a huge mental health advocate, a representative of NAMI. Shout out NAMI. It's the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization, and a Pilates teacher. So, as I'm doing all of this work in the field, I'm also living it too. I am a testimony of that. So grateful to just be here with you and chat about all of these topics I love so much.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I know that you have a unique sorority journey, so I'd love to hear about that and maybe just like take us back to your first year recruiting for your organization and how you noticed maybe the lackingness or just like some gaps in like focus on like self-care or wellness in recruitment and how that's become like such a priority for you working with sorority communities leading up to recruitment.
That's a great question. I am a former DG. Shout out all my Delta Gamma girls.
Anchors
Uh,
away.
yes, Anger's right. It feels like so long ago, and I feel like I'm aging myself for like the 12 years ago when I was going through recruitment. I started out at UC Irvine in Southern California and kind of just fell into the process because truthfully, friends were doing it. I personally had a really challenging and rough transition from high school to college. I'm from Pennsylvania, so I think the jump for me from coast to coast was just a lot and overwhelming and
Big jump.
big jump. And just also trying to figure out, who I am
Yeah.
as most 18-year-olds are doing at that time. So just did the thing because everybody else was doing it. The the conflict that I came up against because I transferred from UC Irvine to Pepperdine and was participating in DG at Pepperdine. And for those that know Pepperdine, I would consider it more of like a mellow school when it comes to social activities and as far as Greek life goes. But at that time, finally getting to the point, there was just a heavy emphasis on partying and going out and formals and all of these things. And it wasn't just Pepperdine. I think it was just like the era and the time that it
Yeah.
was 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And in between then and now, like health and wellness has really come to the forefront as this trending topic and being of interest to young adults. And I was actually getting fined because I wasn't participating in evening activities. Now, my personal disposition of who I am as a person, I never stay out late. I've never been a big drinker. So I just was like, what am I doing? I'm getting fined for these things. I'm going to quit. The irony now is that I'm working with sororities and Panhellenics. Like,
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, isn't that funny? Like how the disconnect, like from what your experience was to like what you see the value in now can be. Like, I think that's true for like some of the guests that we've had on, like their sorority journeys didn't look like mine, like didn't look like maybe some of the members that listen to our podcast, but they definitely could be representative of people that I or people who listen to the podcast like come across is like I've known sorority to be this? Is it this or is it something else? And I think it's our job to really like kind of stand in that gap to be like, okay, sorority has shown up in this way, but has more to offer. And I don't know, some of the stereotypes or expectations, there can just be like a disparity between, and it's our job to kind of bridge that gap. So I think it's interesting that you had that kind of experience and like now get to work to maybe fill a gap that you didn't have filled for you when you were a member.
for sure. And I don't put it on the sorority and I don't put it on the school at all. Like, in retrospect, if I was who I am now, or even like a sliver of who I am now in terms of knowing myself, awareness, self-confidence, I would have
Totally.
leaned in heavily to the leadership and the philanthropy and all of these beautiful aspects. I was just lost. Like I was a lost 18-year-old,
Yeah,
kind of mixed up in the shuffle and just going along with the motions that were there and in front of me. Um, but I do think it's a blessing in a way because I was able to see a gap, as you had mentioned, where it's like, let's provide healthy, fun activities for
yeah.
bonding experiences focused on self care and mental health. That, yes, will help your sorority experience, your college experience, but really will help transcend your life post college.
For sure. Well, and I think too, like drinking partying culture that is so closely tied into fraternity and sorority life, I think is much more of a product of college culture that just like capitalizes on the like networking and like social capital that fraternities and sororities hold. And so I think it can be really hard for some of our members who have joined to be a part of something bigger than themselves to feel out of place sometimes when that feels like the only thing that's promoted or the organization's known for. And so I think all of our organizations could do a better job of creating really valuable programming or just experiences like some of the stuff that you do that can really target some of those members who are just looking for like not the traditional college experience from their sorority membership. Um, and I love what you said too, just about, like, if you had a sliver of, like, the confidence or self-awareness that you had today, you would have, like, tapped into a lot of different things. I think it's so hard because with time, we just, like, gain a lot of those things, but I know that you talk a lot about authentic confidence, and you don't want, the women that you work with to have to wait, like, however many years after college to tap into that. I'm curious how you think a member could find her confidence in preparation for recruitment, like, in some of the things that you do or some of the conversations that you have, or how showing up, like, as your most authentic self could rub off on some of your sisters or potential new members in the process.
You know, anybody that's in a sorority, and I say this to girls all the time, like you step into a leadership position even if you're not holding technically like VP of finance or wellness or whatever chair it is, you're still a representative of the larger chapter of the chapter at a national level. Like you're still
Yes.
essentially like a leader on your campus. And the best way that I do believe like the greatest leaders demonstrate their leadership is through action. It's not through, I'm going to tell you what to do, X, Y, and Z. It's actually
Yeah.
living living whatever it is that they're trying to exemplify. So like for me with even like within my community, whether that's you, whether that's like the girls I work with, whether that's my friends, the other people in the health and wellness space, I equate it to like if I wasn't practicing my meditation regularly or, moving my body or like doing these stress management tips doesn't mean I always feel great all the time. And it doesn't mean I'm always like acting perfectly, but I really am trying my best. There would be such a disconnect if I was like telling you to do it, but I wasn't doing it myself.
Totally. And I think that's so good because like we preach like confidence and being true to yourself a lot in sorority, but I think there's just like so much competition or comparison that like not like I don't even think I think exists like societally that we kind of push into our sorority communities that was never intended to like exist in that way. That all of a sudden shows up like heightened in recruitment. So if we aren't like true to ourselves or having checked in with where we're at and what we need, then how can we expect others to? Because you can't really just like teach a workshop on confidence. That's something that we have to like do the inner work to create within ourselves to not portray onto other people.
Right. And it's not necessarily saying it's going to happen overnight, but even let's say in the weeks leading up to recruitment, what are we like? This is July. It's going to be out in July. And like before you know it, it'll be August. And back to school and all of those things, but it's about taking small steps. And so even in some of the messaging that I share, if you can implement one small step on a regular basis and stay consistent with it, going into this process of recruitment, like maybe the outcome will be like you'll connect. Oh, whoa. Ah, this has been happening. And I'm like, I don't know why. What did I say? I haven't had that one yet. I've done the like this and stuff happens.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, how funny.
maybe you'll like connect with somebody that you wouldn't have connected with. Maybe your
Yeah.
stress levels will be a little bit lower because you'll feel more equipped to take pauses and breaks, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so I deliver two keynotes primarily to this community. One, developing a mental health toolkit, which focuses on destigmatizing the mental health conversation, offering stress management tips. And then the other one that I get booked for is a college girl's guide to confidence, which is 7 pillars I have created to help girls thrive, lead, and succeed within their sorority experience and beyond. But what I decided to do was do a weekly drop of the 7 pillars on my Substack and then on my social channels as well, where I'm going through a very like limited explanation of it. Obviously, with the keynote, there's greater detail, but to share that messaging for free, because if somebody can take something from it and implement it into their experience, to their recruitment experience, and it's a little better, than great.
Totally. Yeah, I love that. Is there anything from the College Girls Guide to Confidence that you feel like would be really helpful or like really stand out um as like a good thing for our women to lean on, specifically regarding recruitment?
I mean, my first thing that I talk about, which, is makes sense for who I am, is just the act of prioritizing your mental health. Like, I
Yeah.
know it's a simple concept, but like treating your mental health like you do your physical and your spiritual health, and just implementing practices throughout your day to give yourself brain breaks. So maybe it's a half hour of not looking at your phone. Maybe it's starting the day not looking at your phone and doing like 5 minutes of intentional breathing or meditation or whatever it is. Like I dive a lot further into that. I mean, I go over like communication and conflict resolution, because communication is so key just in general, in life in
Yeah.
general. Most of the time, like wires are just crossed and people just aren't listening
Yeah.
and hearing other people. And then even just from the mindfulness based, practices, just, when you are feeling stressed in the middle of like a 12-hour day with commitments, like stepping aside, placing one hand on your heart, one hand on your stomach, and
Mhm.
breathing for 60 seconds, just so you can reset, so you can move forward. I'm not saying it's going to like make everything better, but maybe if you're like anxious and up here, it'll just like take it down a bit and you can be like, okay, I can handle the other 13 things on my list I have to do today.
Totally. Yeah, I love that. And I think what you hit on with like mental health and communication, when we have really stressful weeks, be it recruitment or like finals or philanthropy week, or just like, I don't know, maybe you've got a family wedding and there's like a lot going on, like regardless of the area of life that it is, when we have a busy week, we don't have the time or capacity to learn how to prioritize our mental health or to learn how to resolve conflict. Like we have to do that in the seasons that are a little quieter, like right now in July, when you have some time to think about like, what do I need for me to recharge, so it becomes a habit that you like automatically resort to in those moments that are really stressful. And same thing goes with conflict. I mean, in all of my recruitment programming and sisterhood programming, we talk about a better way to resolve conflict in sisterhood and in communities, with the intention of preserving relationships, recognizing that we're all unique, we're all different. We like all do things a certain way, and that's a good thing. Like, I know there's a stereotype of sorority that we're all cookie cutter versions of one another, but we're not. We like things a different way. Like some of us uh prefer our lives to look a little bit more full, and some of us prefer to have our lives a little bit more open, right? Or and that's just like one example of how we can like butt heads with one another and never mind the expectations of sorority. And by learning how to resolve conflict in a way that preserves relationships instead of driving a wedge, we can then go into stressful situations with that mindset instead of a self-preservation mindset just to get through the week. And
Totally.
I don't know if that comes up for you at all when you work with communities in those weeks leading up to recruitment. Like, what are some like really helpful or really like common themes that you find yourselves talking about with recruiters and chapters?
I think I will answer that question, but to like what you just said, I call it the rubber band effect. And
Mm,
like in these times or in these seasons when things may be slower, like even if you do have a job or an internship, but before like the busyness and craziness of school, like set a solid foundation for yourself. So when you get thrown into the fire of chaos or whatever it may be, you're not completely unequipped. Like you have your toolkit in place or you have your good foundation, because it doesn't make the stressful situations less stressful. I have found it
yeah,
just makes it allows you to handle it better than if you weren't prepared. Like
totally.
it's
Yeah.
maybe shitty, it still may suck, but you're like, okay, instead of this setting me back for maybe like 2 weeks, it's only going to set me back a day.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
like I'm going to choose to preserve a friendship, not ruin a friendship because I can't keep my mouth shut or whatever that is. So I do find that, I love chatting with young women about really preparing themselves pre this experience and focusing on the self-care practices, because it does translate into their sorority experience, it translates into their personal life, into their
Yeah.
academic experience, into all of it.
Well, and I think that rubber band effect, like, and as we're talking about, I think so much of what preparing for recruitment is like really preparing for just like life experiences because in your career, in future families, in relationships, there's going to be like ebbs and flows of chaos, right? And so I think it's all about like setting a routine up for yourself to ensure that like you are able to like ride the waves of chaos and like slowness and how to not be restless in times that you have a little less going on, but really be really like mindful and take even more care of yourself than you can in the times of chaos, but that you can like sustain the chaos because you've like taken that time to care for yourself.
For sure. And also just knowing where you're at as well. Like here I am talking about self-care, mental health, and wellness. I'm not asking you to have perfect habits and to never drink and like
Yeah, yeah.
never go out or never get
No.
or to always get your 8 hours of sleep. I know you're not going to, like, I know you're not going to with all of those things, but it's really the education and awareness around, okay, you do have a busy week coming up. Make sure you get sleep before the busyness happens. Make sure you're taking your
Yeah.
supplements, whether it's recruitment or after. Like, make sure you're taking your vitamin C supplements to keep your immune system strong, because you are going out 3 or 4 nights a week. Like whatever it is, just know what your dance is and do the best that you can to set yourself up for success.
Yeah, that's so good. My roommate and I, well, because just for context, like every year I was a collegian in recruitment, I got sick like the weekend after recruitment without fail. Your immune system is at like an all-time low when you are sleeping like less than 6 hours a night. You're eating like the most like fast and furious meals of like whatever you can get, right? Like you're off your routine if you even have one. You're probably drinking less water than you should and you're sharing very tight quarters with people who are living the exact same way. And I think what's really funny about that now in recruitment season or even just like in flu season or whatever, my roommate and I just like stock up on the juice shots from Trader Joe's and like we like kind of make a joke that we were like gaslighting ourselves into health and wellness by taking like a ginger turmeric and like cherry I can't remember what kind of cherry it is, juice shot to like, you know, revive us or just like kill
Stay
anything that
healthy.
Yeah. Just like whatever it could be. But I do think like there is like a sense of like self-awareness of like, hey, I can't be down right now, so I have to take care of myself. I'm curious, obviously, uh taking juice shots is like maybe not the best way to go about this practically. It's just like I feel like something that makes me feel better, like I'm able to control things I can't control. Can you think of anything like within a busy week like recruitment that our women could think about working into their schedules now that they could lean into like in a quick like 5-minute break between rounds, or even like in those like 8 hours that they have away from the recruiting space that they also need to sleep, that could really reset them and fuel them to be super present while recruiting, but also like very connected to themselves and what they need?
For sure. I think my number one thing and my number one recommendation, excuse me, is to start your day screen free. So,
Mm,
like, sleep with your phone on airplane mode. So even if you have to set your alarm, you're not like bombarded with notifications first thing upon waking, and just set aside 5 minutes to journal, to do a gratitude practice, to meditate, to breathe, to do something, to go out even for a walk just for yourself without a screen or without a computer, phone, whatever it is, to set the foundation for your day. And it doesn't have to be long. It can be 3 minutes, 5 minutes. My number two thing is like, yes, drink a lot of water, stay hydrated, because you're probably gonna have a lot of coffee, Diet Coke, whatever. Like, just yes,
a
yes.
good reminder, yeah.
Yeah, drink a lot of water. We all know you have your Stanleys. Fill them up with water and just keep drinking. And then the other thing too is like, just take a 10-minute break, walk, again, screen free, just like getting outside if you can, like in the middle of the afternoon at like 2 or 3. Like, you can find 10 minutes. I know there's a lot going on. Find 10 minutes, make 10 minutes.
Yeah. I think that's so good because one thing that I talk to recruiters about a lot is, especially recruitment teams, is like when you leave the day of like all the deliberations, whatever kind of like post recruitment meeting you had to have, like leave it there. Like leave recruitment there and then come back to it the next morning as if you were working like a 9 to 5, you could able were like really able to leave. Like when you go home that night, don't keep talking to your roommate about whatever happened at recruitment. Like don't like just get on social media and like flip through all the recruitment posts. Like allow yourself to like be a holistic person in those like few minutes that you have, not being completely submerged in recruitment. Like call your partner, call your mom, like call a friend from home that can help you, give you perspective that this is like a brief, like one of 52 weeks of the year that you are spending completely consumed in one thing that's just not representative of not only your life, but even a sorority experience. Like, we dedicate so much mental bandwidth to recruitment that is really just 2 to 3 weeks of 52 of our sorority calendar.
Or even do something like, whether you start your day this way or end it. I always think it's nice to end it because it puts a little like nightcap on it, and you can write it down. You can just like put it on in the notes in your phone. Like, yes, leave recruitment at the door, find some time for yourself and some space for yourself. But even if you just want to find a moment of appreciation for one
Mm.
thing that went well that day during recruitment.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
met somebody, like, you learned something new about yourself, like, one thing.
Yeah. Or even if as you're like walking out of the recruitment space, you're able to just like, yeah, find that gratitude because, and I think gratitude, tell me what you think about this. I think gratitude and confidence go hand in hand because when we are like grateful for the things that we are a part of, we are more confident with like our ability to make good decisions and like show up in a way that we are proud of ourselves for. Um I don't know. I feel like I talk about that a lot when I teach fitness too, about like movement being a privilege and like thanking your body for what it was able to do for you today. It changes the way you walk out of that space and like drive to work, or like drive to meet up for coffee with a friend. Because when we are like hard on ourselves or negative or like focused on what could have gone better without like a growth mindset, I think it's good to like have a growth mindset about like how to improve in the future. But then when we're hyper fixated in a critical way on ourselves or on the things that we're a part of, it's really hard, I feel like, to feel proud of ourselves and then confident in the kind of person that we are to show up in those spaces.
Totally. They for sure go hand in hand. That's one of
I
my factors, gratitude.
Is it? I love that. Well, and I think just even those couple pillars that we talked about tonight of uh mental health, gratitude, and what was the third one we talked about that I've already forgotten?
Communication,
Yeah,
conflict resolution.
yes, and communication and conflict resolution, I think are 3 really good things for all of our new recruiters listening to think about as they go into recruitment. I hope this is like a fresh spin. Like, Britt and I are not here to talk about like what kind of questions to ask recruiters, or like what you should wear, or like how to feel confident around older recruiters. Like, the logistics are not our jam. You can go to Her Sorority Journey later this week for all of those tidbits that might help you. But I really hope that whenever you're listening to this, maybe like on a drive, back to school, uh, after your long summer break, or on a walk, just like soaking up your like last few days home, you're able to really think about like what you need to feel like your most confident self all the time, not just during recruitment. Because that confidence that you're able to have in yourself by like having really good communication with the people you do life with closely, and having a really good mental health routine, and having a gratitude practice that keeps you really grounded in what matters most, will translate far beyond recruitment. And I just really appreciate you, Britt, for like giving us some perspective to take with us in recruitment that is so much more than just recruitment.
For sure. And thank you so much for having me. And I am going to plug my own Be Well with Brit events. If
Yeah.
you need me for recruitment, pre-recruitment, post-recruitment, to host one of my wellness activations on your campus, at your chapter, whatever that may be, it's such a great complement to the recruitment process.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for sharing. And Britt, where can they find you if they want to learn more about that event, or get connected with you otherwise?
Well, if they'd like to learn more, and just for context, my events consist of a mini version of my keynote, so 15 minutes, followed by a 40-minute mat Pilates class, and then we finish, with journaling exercises and meditation. So it's really this all-encompassing wellness experience, which is perfect during the period of recruitment when everybody is like, but but you can find me on socials at Be Well with Brit underscore, Instagram, Twitter. And if you want more information just on me or those events, you can go to bewellwithbrit.com.
Awesome. Hey, Britt, thanks so much for coming on. Is there anything you want to leave our gals with before we sign off?
Have fun. Like I know you're concerned with like what you're going to wear and all those things, but like wearing your confidence is the most important thing in my opinion. Like,
Mm.
be you, be proud to be you, and just enjoy the process.
Do you actually have any tips about like what having fun can look like while taking care of yourself and navigating like a hectic week?
Movement. Movement is fun for me. Like I always say, meditation has been the most like transformative personal practice in my life, in a very positive way. But my go-to for fun, it's how my girlfriends and I hang out. It's how I recharge and reset by myself. Is physical movement, whether it's a walk, a run, a class, something, just like getting the body
Yeah.
moving, listening to music, and just, moving and grooving.
I love that, and doing it with people that you love and can, like,
Yes.
de-stress with. That's awesome.
Amazing.
Well, get some movement. What do you say? Get your coffee, get your day.
Get your
Uh,
coffee, get your day.
get your
Yes.
coffee, get your day with your sisters, get some movement during pre-recruitment, and do what you can in between recruitment rounds. Britt, thank you so much for, joining us for Recruitment Takeover this year.
Thanks, Cassie.
There it is.